Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 46 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is Sunday, September 25th, and we took a week off a couple weeks ago and skipped over talking about an Effingham football victory. And so I wanted to make sure this week we don't have a ton to talk about really, but I wanted to make sure that we got a little bit of Effingham football chatter in again this week after a big win over Taylorville. And so that's our main prerogative on the show today. And if you see me kind of cringe visibly, it's just because in the corner of my monitor that you can't see off of my camera,
you're watching the Packers.
I've got the Braves game on, and Kenley Jansen is currently trying to pitch the bottom of the ninth in a tie game.
He's cringeworthy.
So Kyle Schwarber's at bat. Bad things have been known to happen when Kyle Schwarber's at bat, and so bear with me. But yeah, Effingham, that's my main thing. I wanted to make sure that we didn't give short shrift to Effingham football this week because they picked up a convincing victory over Taylorville, a 48-13 win Friday night in Effingham, the first of two straight home games for the Hearts. And as it turns out, Taylorville pretty down this year, but it was a game by the same token that Effingham absolutely couldn't afford to lose. And they played that way, and they really took care of their business pretty convincingly. Like I said, a win they needed to have, and 3 in a row now going into a very important matchup with Mount Zion next week.
Yeah, and with Mount Zion, Howell's the common opponent. I know that doesn't carry a lot of water, but, you can get an idea.
You can get an idea, and so let me tell you about common opponents.
And they've probably played Lincoln, who the Hearts haven't played.
They played Lincoln this past week, beat them 41-14. Lincoln is 2-3.
Doesn't help you any.
Yeah, it doesn't help you much.
Who's your other conference opponent?
They took it on the chin against Muhammad, 49-14.
Okay.
They beat Taylorville 21-6. That's the one that kind of sticks out to me, is that they only put 21 on Taylorville. And Taylorville, listen, I'm not going to spend a lot of time.
Well, and I heard you and Greg one time say the Hearts' second touchdown, maybe, that Taylorville's offense inside the 10 looked optional, or their defense looked optional. They kind of let the Weymouth kid kind of walk into the end zone.
He did. It was just, I don't know. I think that's a team that is starting to get a little beaten down based on what I could see, that they're starting to understand what this season is for them. And, it was their biggest problem. Well, let me get back to Taylorville in a second. Mount Zion also beat Mattoon 42-21. So pretty similar to the way that Effingham beat them.
Yeah, so it should be a good ball game.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it sounds to me like Mount Zion is not like world beaters. It doesn't sound like they're unstoppable, but they're 4-1, they're 4-1. They're 3-1 in the Apollo. Effingham also 3-1 in the Apollo. So, just from the standpoint of who's going to finish runner-up to Muhammad, which has already beaten both of those teams and is not going to lose a regular season game, who's going to finish second in the Apollo. That's, there's something to be said for that. But for Effingham, more importantly, just if you want to get to 6 wins, okay, you can't lose this one. In fact, if you want to get to 5 wins, you probably can't lose this one. I don't know, because Mater Dei their record's not great.
Mater Dei's 2-3. Highland's ranked, so you hang that on your wall of ranked opponents. But you've got 3 wins right now. You get this one, that's big. That's 4. Then you got the long drive to Lincoln.
Yeah,
but you probably, if you get this one to get to 4, you've got 2 more winnable games, and 6 wins gets you a lot different opponent than the playoffs and 5 wins.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, of course, 5 wins not a guarantee. I think I don't know what the playoff point situation looks like, and I'm not one of these guys that that has a deep understanding of what's going on throughout the state and what the scenarios are and what playoff.
You're not like edgy Tim.
No, and I know that when Mike McDonald was coaching at Effingham, I know that his son Andy always had a pretty good feel for these things. I don't. I know that, Effingham's schedule is kind of a mixed bag, really. You look at the first 2 teams they played, well, St. Teresa and Muhammad.
Both still undefeated.
Yeah, and they're not gonna, you know what I'm saying? And Highland, has a real good record. They're 4-1. But then you got, Charleston, Mattoon, and Taylorville got 2 wins between them, and Lincoln and Mater Dei are sitting at 2 wins each. So those are not phenomenal records. So I don't know what the playoff point situation is going to be like. It's not going to be quite like last year where 5 wins was going to get you in. Like there was some chatter about 4 wins getting some time. So I kind of doubt that's going to be the situation, but who knows? But getting on to the Taylorville game, the big thing for me, and I said it during the pregame with Greg before the game started, was that no matter what, Effingham's defense had to set the tone for that game, and they did. Taylorville's a young team, sophomore quarterback. It's coach's kid quarterback, which is I think the second time that Coach Odom has had one of his sons.
Is he going to be as big as his dad? His dad's pretty good size.
This kid's tall. He's like 6'4". So
okay,
well,
he'll fill out because his dad was a big kid.
Well, here's the thing: is that I could not get any sort of a feel for how good Baron Odom was at playing quarterback, because the moment the ball was snapped, he was in trouble.
He had company.
Yeah, he didn't have anybody. He didn't have any help in front of him, and that's the kind of thing they could very well improve that over the next couple of years. It just takes some off seasons of work and getting the right kids on the program. But right now they just couldn't block Effingham. And so I noticed before the game that I was looking at their statistics, and like probably 2/3 of their completed passes this season, if not more, were to running back. So that's because that's all they have time to do.
Just dump it.
Yep. That's all they have time to do. They can't go downfield. They did have one nice, pretty pass play where they ran one of their backs actually right up the seam, and nobody picked him up. He was all by himself, and he went into the end zone untouched. He lost his balance going for the catch over the shoulders and almost fell forward before he got to the line, but he tripped right over the end zone line and scored. And that was entertaining, if only just because at that point Effingham was already, in control of the game. So you didn't feel like they were going to lose because of it. But not the kind of thing you're used to seeing with Effingham either, because their secondary is dramatically improved this year. Very
well. You've got Armando back there, and you got the Harper kid, and that's what you have to have athletes, and you have to have athletes who will come up and hit people.
And Jack Harper will. Man, he has had a couple of those stingers this year where he knocks the ball loose. He's been a welcome addition, and Estrada just defends the ball so well. He is excellent at playing the man and the ball at the same time. We talked about this a little bit last week, positioning himself, knowing, having an idea of where the football's at. You can't play your man and know exactly where the ball is at, but you have to be able to, at least have an idea. And he's
got an advantage being an all-conference wide receiver last year. So he's been on the other end of that. So that helps him. But yeah, he's done a good job. I hope to make it out this Friday night.
Well, I
see them play Mount Zion.
It should be a fun one. It really should. People love the Mount Zion matchup for good reason. It's a good football rivalry between these two schools, and it's a meaningful game. I mean, I think anybody who understands sort of what's coming down the pike for Effingham understands what kind of a swing this would be for them to get a win there. So with that, all that in play, I would hope that even if there's a little bit of rainfall like there was this week against Taylorville, that people would still come out and see.
I don't think there's any. Of course, I didn't know it was supposed to rain this morning. At about 5:30, I got woke up with some lightning and thunder, and it was raining hard.
I thought that the field, by the way, played very well, despite the fact that there had been precipitation in the area for several hours.
Now, was there water standing in places?
Not that you could see, but like sometimes the guy would go. He'd dive for a ball, and you'd see a splash come up afterwards. Right. So, I think it retains it a little bit, but I don't know. The footing seemed to be good.
You've got all that sand, and you've got that rubberized pellet stuff in there. Mm-hmm. It slows down the water. Yeah. But I know the drainage system, is insane what the field can do. The field. the surrounding infrastructure cannot handle what the field will get off. I mean, eventually it'll quit draining if you get the type of rain the field can supposedly handle, because the infrastructure, no one has infrastructure that can handle that much water. But it's
at least not
it'll be it's good you didn't start having the muddy uniforms and the footing going out on people.
It was no ill effects from the weather that I could see, and the throws, Effingham didn't throw the ball a lot because, quite honestly, it just didn't need to throw the ball a lot. So I couldn't really get a feel for like slickness, but Taylorville threw the ball a fair. They went into passing formation a fair amount. The problem is that, again, I couldn't get a feel for how well he's throwing the ball because he was just having to get rid of it,
Right.
And I probably in the moment wasn't fair enough to their quarterback, because there were some throws where he led the receiver too far, and I didn't really, you got to mention every time that there's like 2 or 3 red jerseys in the backfield, like it's not like he's just inaccurate.
He sounds like he was never comfortable.
No, couldn't be. One thing to point out, Effingham ran the ball like 270, 280 yards in that game, depending on the statistics that you look at. Effingham's statistics on max preps are a little different than what I had for the game, and I'm going to chalk that up to probably, I don't know. During those second quarters where I'm trying to do a play-by-play and keep my stats at the same time, I could be making mistakes, but the bottom line is that Weldon Dunstan got over 100 yards.
He scored 3 touchdowns, didn't he?
Yeah. Weymouth scored the first 3 touchdowns. Then Dunstan scored the next 3, and then Muhammad Freeman got in the end zone late too, which was nice.
Boy, so what year is he? Is Freeman a senior?
He's a senior.
Okay.
I know that at that point in the game, like at the point in the game that he's been in against both Taylorville and Mattoon, it's the game's decided. I'm sure some personnel changes have been made for the other team as well. But boy, he's a tough customer to bring down. He's gone out there and run hard, and I was glad to see him get rewarded by getting a goal line carry and getting into the end zone. So that was
good for him.
But Weymouth, he scored the first 3 touchdowns, about 80 yards, 15 carries. He did an excellent job.
Well, it sounds like they started turning it over to letting Weymouth set for a while, and from the standpoint, hey, we got a lot of monster games coming up. We're not going to have you get rolled up on here. And
especially just the way it's gone so far, right? Like, he
was running back number 3.
And you're fortunate enough to be able to just keep going back to the well and get people who can run effectively. And I get it. Again, like it's definitely been a little bit softer defenses to run against the last 3 weeks than the first 2 weeks, but still, it's different to go out there and carry the ball, and there's still kids out there trying to knock the cleats off, and he's gone out there and done the job, and Mount Zion's going to be a big test in that way too. Like the intensity is going to be a step up, and so I'll be interested.
Yeah, when Effingham Mount Zion play, there's no love loss.
And that's the only thing is that, Tanner Pontius was 3 of 10 passing. They didn't have to have him throw a lot, but the times he did get to throw, I was hoping to see a little bit more there. There were a couple of times where he got it where he needed to, and the receiver just didn't hang on to it. And there are a couple of times where the throw was just not on the money. And listen, there's no rhythm to it because you're running the ball 50 times and having success that way. And the passes are just intermittent, but still going into a big game like that, where you're probably not going to have 270, 280 rushing yards, I would have hoped to have seen him connect a couple of times just to, feel like he's really in some sort of a rhythm with his receivers. That's, if I'm nitpicking, that's my nitpick. That's about all I got.
Well, I mean, like I said, sometimes those games you search for, something we got to get better. And coaches are good about that. You always have some point of emphasis. You go, hey, we didn't do a very good job of this.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
coach,
Brett's
we
still,
did everything else awesome. So, but that's coach's job. Okay,
yeah.
let's start working on this. You
It's,
can't just say, "Hey, man, that's awesome. We were awesome," and then pretty soon you lay an egg
well,
after that.
Brett still managed to call one of those "come here so I can yell at you" timeouts in that game, right at the beginning of the second half.
Yeah, I heard that.
They came out a little lackadaisical, and he called the timeout where it wasn't just the personnel that were getting ready to be on the field that were gathered around him.
He
It was
called
the
them all together.
entire team.
Yeah,
Yes.
well,
And listen, from that point on, you didn't see those issues anymore. So
I've seen a basketball coach on occasion have to call timeout. Just
yeah. Yep.
sometimes you got to get people's attention, and sometimes it works. Sometimes you just say, "All right, hockey change. Give me 5 new bodies," and
And on the defensive side of the ball, we got a former Attaboy of the Week winner, Logan Heil, has really he's been a man. He had a fumble recovery Friday night. Estrada blocked a punt, by the way. It was kind of there were like 2 or 3
you guys
guys.
made it sound like they're just standing there waiting on to kick it so they could block it.
Yeah, the snap wasn't good. The first 2 snaps on their punts were like their punter was left in a pretty precarious situation too. Like he wasn't.
Because he got first one blocked, didn't he have to run the second one?
Yeah, because again, it was just the snap was just not there.
Yeah,
But,
punters usually, unless it's like quarterback, they don't like running that.
no, Pontius does such a good job punting the ball, though. He's very good
Well,
at
and
it.
that's the thing. His punts have been, he's kicking a lot of balls out there 40 plus. And, obviously with Estrada's kickoffs, that's, we've mentioned it before. That's a big weapon, especially in high school basketball.
Yeah. You leave a team 80 yards to have to go. I mean, it's tough to do, and especially Effingham's defense keeps playing better and better. And so
Right.
to move the ball 80 yards against them, you got to do something. And London Wrinkle had an interception too. Got to throw his name out there too, because sometimes defensive players don't get quite as much love. And so there you go. There's some guys that made some, and we've talked about Michael Love. He's having an outstanding year. So, all right, that's football talk. Mount Zion next week. If you're in the Effingham area, you should go. If you can't go, you should listen to it on the radio. And if you go, you should still listen to it on the radio. There's ways to do it. Get that phone out, man.
Well, heck yes.
So,
couple shout outs. Had the Apollo Conference golf match on Monday. Coach Schaefer's Hearts slid into 3rd place. Probably played their best 18 holes as a team. Beat Charleston, beat Mount Zion. And that was big for them. That was really big for them. So I know I talked to him later in the week, would have been Wednesday. We had a Tuesday or Wednesday, we had a meet at the same time. He was playing Charleston, maybe, and we were playing Robinson, and he and I were talking. And I saw they got 3rd, but yeah, he was pretty happy with that. We played Monday. I know we talked about it. We played in that St. Anthony match play. We got a 1.5. And to be honest, 7 of our 8 matches, we would probably, if there was a DraftKings site, setting up wagering on this, we would be considered underdogs probably in 7 of the 8 matches, and one of them would have been a pick'em probably. And my kids went to the last hole in 5 of the 8. We won 1, we tied 1, we gave 1 away. We were 2 up with 3 to play, and had hit a ball in the middle of the fairway. We were in a good spot, and missed a putt here, missed a putt there. But it was good experience. Benton, I think, had 7 of possible 8 points, and they're loaded. Potential to be a defending champion in 2A. So really, we could have had the 2A state champ and the 1A state champ there, and then here, and we're there competing with them. I know Adam Lustig played one of the St. Anthony kids, and their match went to the last hole. I was very happy. He was down 3 after 3 and battled back, took it to the last hole. So Ethan Taylor got a half point on the last hole, made a 25-30 footer on the last hole to win a match. So a little flair of the dramatic for the shoes. St. Anthony won Charleston Invitational. I believe that was Friday. They went up to Charleston and won in that wonderful drizzle off and on all day Friday afternoon. And then I think they played somewhere Thursday also, or Saturday, and may have won another tournament. I've not seen where they played, but everyone's kind of gearing up now for Wednesday is the regional. It'll be really, really tight. You know, I think St. Anthony's a clear-cut favorite in our 1A regional, but after that, it's going to be, you know, kind of a knockdown dragout. I think between the next 4 teams, potentially 5. Robinson at home, they've got a kid who's really good, a rich kid who's a really nice player. If their other kids really step up and play well, they can get in the mix. But yeah, it'll be interesting. You know, we use this IHSA scoring app, so as a coach, I know pretty well, as long as everyone's entering scores in a timely manner, I know where we stand at that minute, which is good because you only can see so many kids. And the fact that we play with St. Anthony and Flora going off number 1, and Marshall and Mount Carmel and Robinson go off number 10 at the same time. So you really don't know how other kids are playing. Now I do. So
now remind me, and anybody else who doesn't know off the top of their head, is it three teams that come out of a regional and then a certain number
3
of
teams come out of the regional, and then the top 10 individuals not affiliated with those 3 teams. Which in our regional, we've got Sisney's got a good kid who's playing as an individual. If Robinson doesn't get there as a team, they've got a young man, probably will slide into one of those spots. There may be somebody else. I may be missing somebody. And that's someone else maybe who doesn't have a team but has individuals that's pretty good. I'd have to go back and look. But it is a, you know, it'll be fun. Looks like the weather. I mean, we had a practice round today over there, and it was really 20-some mile-an-hour winds all day. That's tough.
Kind of gets to be that way this time of year, doesn't it?
Yeah, you have those days. I don't mind those days if we're playing at the country club, which is where the sectional is, because you generally have an idea. Robinson, you never know which direction. I mean, hey, the wind's in our face. Hey, the next tee. Hey, the wind's in our face. Well, it can't be. Well, it is. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But really looking forward to it. I could be a really, really happy camper Wednesday night. I mean, I think we'll have kids go Monday, whether we go as a team or go as individuals. But, you know, the next step with our program is to go as a team. And that's really what we want to do. And that's what we've kind of set as our goal this year. So that's what we aim to do.
I'm looking forward to hearing about it next week.
And then the girls are Thursday. Effingham, they're 2A. I think they're all at Charleston. Them and Alling, Charleston, Mattoon, somebody else, pretty strong team is there. Because I was talking to some other coaches who have a regional up north, and they're like, "Well, we think we've only got one really, really strong team." I said, "Would you like a couple? Because we got a fight going on at ours." Hey, I did see something a little kind of disturbing. Yesterday, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Yeah. Morgan Park and Kenwood played a football game, and they eventually just called the thing off. Started with a lot of personal fouls to begin the game, and they stopped it short. And according to, I think, Michael O'Brien's Twitter account, and he writes for the Sun-Times, about a 10-minute brawl that ensued. Primarily, they had a kid. One of the schools had a kid who had been ejected, but he was allowed to stay on the sidelines. After whatever it stopped or this brawl started, he put his helmet on and made a beeline and started going after kids again. It was a disaster.
Yeah, I hope I never have to describe a thing like that.
Yeah, that's, you know, it's things like that. And you hate to see it. And I know Kenwood and Morgan Park, those neighborhoods are pretty close. And I think there'd been a kid transfer from one to the other here this year. And, you know, and then they said at one time, I think they were going to the coaches' respect for each other. They wanted to try to keep playing the game, and then it got completely out of hand. And
Yeah.
Coaches were ejected. I'm not saying it was either head coach. It's just when fans were involved getting on the field, but when you lose, be it a head coach, be it an assistant coach, when people start losing control, you're only fueling the kids
Yeah.
go stronger at what's going on.
I mean, football,
you watch a game, you watch a basketball game when a coach gets really pissed at officials and is riding officials hard and bitching about calls. Pretty soon, every call, his kids are like this and looking at officials and pushing them to where they're almost getting teed up.
yeah.
And, I put my responsibility on coaches. I mean, I know in the day I was, I could get excited. However, you can't lose your focus of composure to the point where now your kids start feeding off you and getting this excited.
Well, and football is a physical, emotional game, and it has to be played with a little bit of an edge. I mean, you got to.
Oh, very much so. It's a fine. Let's face it. There's a fine line between, okay, man, that was a great hit. That was cheap. It is. It's a very fine line.
And that is a big part of a coach's responsibility, is to be able to educate the players and rein them in when he needs to, but also let them make them understand that, like, yeah, you gotta have a chip on your shoulder to play this game correctly, but by the same token, it's always got to be reined in, to the point of having good sportsmanship. It's a tough thing, like no other sport really, involves quite that tightrope walk, and it would be difficult. But I guess in 10, 12 years of broadcasting football games, I guess I'm surprised I haven't seen more things devolve, but I think that's partially because,
my son almost got mixed up in something. You were probably doing the game because Zach would have played less than 10 years.
I've seen chippiness. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it was Muhammad, Effingham, and to be honest, chippiness may have been started by an Effingham kid tackling a kid on an interception and taking out frustrations, and then the Muhammad kid maybe started throwing punches at the Effingham kid now in the pile, and then here's lovable Zach Wilson sees this, and to the shock of everyone, including his mother, who said, "Holy shit," in the crowd, and everyone heard her, diving into the pile, and then one of Zach's line coaches grabbing him by the nape of the shoulder pads and ripping him out of there like Zach was a yo-yo. Could have got ejected had the official not known who he was and knew what he just witnessed was really out of character.
Yeah.
And I may or may not have had a conversation with Matt Hensley, who laughed and said, "Oh, it was so-and-so. That's okay." So maybe a kid who was kind of you could have had two turds on each team started the whole situation.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
I don't want to ever have to, see a game just completely, fall apart because of that kind of stuff. I mean, I've seen a handful where, chippiness, a few 15-yard penalties here and there, but
and I don't
everyone always shook hands after it was over.
Yeah, who I was watching yesterday in the college game, but the announcer said, "Well, they're talking to him on the sidelines now. They're saying, hey, we don't do that here." It may have been a late hit on a quarterback and just blatant. And but you've got people trying to stop handshake lines. I don't know. It gets out of control.
I think knowing that you have to do that at the end of the game is something that keeps things under control a little bit, right? Like, I mean,
well, it's in the end, we all have to be civil. So,
well, that's part of it. I mean, in high school,
that's part of the learning experience.
Yeah, they're about teaching you how to, it's not just about the sport, it's about the situations the sport puts you in and how you respond to them, and win or lose, how you conduct yourself in those difficult times, right? Like, I mean, that's a
Well,
big part of it.
it's you
So
walk away. I know during a game, Kenny Crawford and I, you know, we would get, we were going hard against each other's teams, and everything we could do to win the game. And then the game's over, we shake hands, and Kenny would usually say some smart ass remark that would make me laugh, and we're friends. But you got to get to that point. You can't. It's hard for sometimes high school kids, I think, they take it too personal, and then
well,
and
sometimes
they
sometimes
did
the high
allude
school
to the
kids in the
fact that
stands get
this.
a little personal too.
What's that?
Sometimes the kids in the stands get a little personal
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah. But I guess there was a lot of social media banter before this game going on all week. So again, is that from kids? Is that from some kid sitting there, who has nothing to do with anything, saying, "Hey, here's a can of gas. I'm gonna throw this on the fire."
Yeah.
And that used to be a problem with high school basketball in the state of Illinois, because of a particular website, and it just kind of quit, to be honest. It eventually ran its course and quit, but there for a while, it was potentially problematic.
Yeah, nothing nothing we ever had to worry about in our respective days, back before everything was quite as plugged in. I'm not the kind of person who always laments the laments technology and the bad things that it can lead to.
Hey,
But
Whitey, your method of your social media faux pas was when you would send that note, check yes or no, does she like me? That was your level of
yeah,
social media.
well,
Social media faux pas.
I never had the guts to even write one of those out, so we have to worry about that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not one to necessarily talk about keeping it civil on Twitter, but I'm glad I didn't have to worry about it whenever I
Oh
was.
no, I understand. It could be
Um, Two things real quickly. The NTC baseball tournament. I'm not going to dwell on this because it doesn't really start in earnest until next week, and so we can kind of more talk about that later.
it's
But there's not very many games left. St.
well,
Anthony's.
Altamont, I know beat T-Town, and it was like the 20th time they've met this fall, and then T-Town beat St. Anthony Friday in the rain, and it was
Yeah.
their
Garrett
best of
Gaddis.
9 series or whatever.
Garrett Gaddis pitched a really nice game that
Really?
night, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned him because he did it. My understanding was that he hadn't been able to throw very much this fall because he's had some trouble with his arm. That's what Matt was saying, and Matt knows these things. But he pitched I think he couldn't quite finish it, as it turns out. But at the point I had to leave to go to the football game,
Right.
he hadn't
And
given
Greg
up
had asked
anything
me to help, and originally I thought I was going to be tied up at a golf fundraiser, which I left. I probably could have,
Yeah.
been able to relieve you, but
I didn't mind pulling double duty. That was kind of fun. Just
good,
the game,
good ball
the game kind of slowed down a little bit in the middle, and just couldn't quite make them both work. But yeah, Garrett pitched a great game.
Good.
And listen, Saint Anthony, they went with their number one. So and obviously their lineup is their lineup. They can
Right.
hit, and so to shut them out for 6 innings is
That's good.
pretty good
It's a
work.
feather in your cap, and
Good
that's
work.
something that that's kind of that glimmer for T-Town moving into the spring.
Yep.
Here's another potential arm if he's healthy who can help us.
Anyways, St. Anthony's going to be the number one seed in that NTC tournament when it starts. It'll start a week from tomorrow. So tomorrow's the 26th. They'll play quarterfinal games. They'll play quarterfinal games a week from tomorrow. The only game that gets played next week is on Friday. That'll be a play-in. And unless something, well, I don't know. It'll be CHBC against somebody, either Dieter, Brownstown, St. Elmo. But your top four, St. Anthony's locked into the number one spot. As long as Altamont is able to take care of business against that CHBC team, they got a game Tuesday this week. Then Altamont will be the number 2 seed. They'll have a 7-1 record along with St. Anthony, but they lost the head-to-head to St. Anthony.
Right.
And then looks South Central and Windsor Stew Straws. They've both got one game left against, Windsor Stew Straws. South Central's got Neoga. Neoga's a little down this year as far as I can tell, but anything can happen. And then Windsor Stew Straws has got North Clay, and North Clay and Neoga are both 3-4 right now. So, South Central, Windsor Stew Straws, both 5-2. South Central's got the tiebreaker on Windsor Stew Straws, So if they ended up tied in the standings, then it would go St. Anthony, Altamont, South Central, Windsor Stew. That would be your top four. We'll see, just something to keep an eye on. So that's the standings as I have them. I really tried to go back and make sure I had it figured out and had it right. And that seems about good. So you got that. And listen, I don't want to go for too much longer. We're going to keep this one short, but I wanted to give you a chance.
Oh, I have an embarrassing story.
Oh, well, I was going to give you a chance to get some Pujols talk out.
Well, this is an embarrassing story.
Okay, go for it.
Friday, I'm laying in bed. I'm an old man now, so I'm laying in bed watching. He hit 699, and my wife's got her headphones on, so we're not distracting her, and she's watching a movie on her iPad. And she's like, I wave at her, and finally what? And I said, Pujols just hit number 699. 699 what? See, that's how in tune our house is. So I'm laying there in bed, and I may or may not be having these 1 and 2 minute doze offs going.
Oh, sure.
So now I'm like, okay. And the Cardinals are up, and there's one out, and Tommy Edman's up, and I'm watching, and he gets a base hit, and I'm like, all right, Albert's up. Here's a chance. And the next thing I know, the Cardinals are all out of the dugout shaking his hand. Whitey, I had a 1.5 minute doze off and missed it.
Boy.
And since it's on Apple TV, which I may or may not have used my son's subscription for.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
I can't rewind it and go back and see it live. I don't know how. I'm trying. I'm in the dark. I don't, my wife has now since gone to sleep. I can't turn the light on and figure out the remote. I'm hitting every button. So then I go to my friend Twitter. So now I'm watching all these replays on Twitter. And I finally find, because, the guys on Apple, it is what it is. I hate the whole concept that your local TV people don't get to do the game.
Yeah, I'm gonna crap all over Apple in a second. So you go ahead and
So I mean, it was what it was. So I finally find KMOX's call, and Dan McLaughlin, actually their TV guy, was doing the inning, and when Albert came to bat, he stepped back, and let John Rooney have the call, and Rooney made the call, and it was a good one. And then him and Horton and then McLaughlin got involved in the conversation. It was about a little 4.5, 5 minute clip, and it was good. Danny McLaughlin, love him or hate him, but he gets very excited, especially when Pujols has hit a homer. And that would have been a call I'm sure he's sorry to have missed. Yeah. Now, do you know Greg Amsinger on the MLB Network? I went and saw the clip. The clip's been all over Twitter. Back April, whatever, the beginning of the season, they were making bold predictions. And he said, Albert will hit his 700th home run. It will not be at home. It will be in Dodger Stadium on a Friday night against Clayton Kershaw.
Well,
he said that back in April.
Pretty good call. Yeah, if you're going to do it with some style like that. I mean, that's a
hot take, man. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I thought that Friday night was a good way to open a lot of people's eyes who might not realize it yet. Just how ugly the on-screen graphics are for those Apple broadcasts. Because you had
somebody said they were futuristic, and I thought,
no, I don't know, futuristic 10 years ago maybe. But between that and the fact that Judge was playing, going for, he's going for 61. I think that night he was on the other Apple broadcast. There were a lot of eyeballs on that. And I've watched a few games on there. I mean, I'm not gonna the on-air talent is, listen, I watch Braves games. I listen to Chip Carey 140 times a year.
Well, the last time they had an Apple broadcast, I used the MLB app because it was still free. And you could choose the Cardinal TV guys did that game. That's what kind of surprised me, that they still weren't doing this game.
I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
Apple's not getting wonderful grades on their coverage, and when they kind of hijacked this night, Amazon's getting so-so grades. It sounds like the first night they did their Thursday night, they didn't have enough servers. People couldn't see it.
Really? I didn't have
And
any
I don't know
trouble
if
when
they
I
got
tried to
that
watch it.
problem fixed yet.
Yeah, there's certainly there's a bit of an oversaturation on the streaming services getting in on the sports, and it's tough because, like, I mean, listen, I subscribe to most of that crap. I don't subscribe to Apple TV Plus. I've been able to see what I need to see because they haven't started charging for it yet. So since I have an Apple ID, I can,
Right.
But I understand that I'm in a minority. Not everybody has everything.
Well, we stream our Hulu. I mean, I stream Hulu, and just like today, I'm watching the Packers, and now once an hour, just like we had about a year ago or so, when we were trying to do a podcast, all of a sudden my internet would blip out for a couple minutes. And it did during this game. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's great when it's raining cats and dogs and my TV signal would go out. Still watch a game. If the power goes out, I can still watch it on my laptop. There's advantages, but yeah, there's disadvantages.
Yeah, I don't know. I overall like it, but I also happen to have nice, reliable internet service that doesn't give me any trouble. And that was not the case when I lived in Effingham. I used the same company I use now, and just the neighborhood I happened to be in and whatever infrastructure they had, it was horrible. And I would have never.
Well, I think we have an issue with squirrels in our neighborhood, chew on these little connectors on the tops.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were going to put fiber in. I've got people, I can literally, where I'm standing now, and my arm's shot, but if my house wasn't here, I could hit my neighbor's house with a baseball and throw, and they have fiber, and they won't come to me because my address is another street and not enough people signed up on our street, even though their connection goes into their house is 55 feet from where the connection goes into my house.
Yeah, that's frustrating for sure. I hope that'll continue to get better. I would hope, but I don't know. I don't understand everything about it either. All I know is that, it works out pretty well for me, but not for everybody. So even though Major League Baseball is making a ton of money by selling these rights to all these different
companies, it is. It's a cash grab.
Then, it's not necessarily fan friendly. And I think that's something that doesn't matter enough to them, I guess. But who am I to stand between some rich people and getting a little bit richer? You know what I'm saying? So
a lot richer.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know that I have anything else really. I don't.
No, I think we're good.
Bears won today.
I'm working on getting us a guest for next week. It's just trying to get them to do it on Sunday. I mean, I don't feel like I can say, okay, Monday at 2, I'm just going to stop working for an hour to do the podcast. But I don't have the flexibility you had, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I don't know. If all I'll say is if it needs to be another day, we'll figure it out. I can generally make it work, but it's.
Hey, is your reliable internet freezing or is it mine?
I don't know. I saw you lock up for a second. My Braves game is still going on my screen over here, so as far as I know, I'm good.
Okay.
Maybe that's another sign that we just need to call it a week.
I thought we were going to do like with Uwe, and then I had to go to another place, another house.
We were going to get that one recorded no matter what.
Well, yeah. I mean, that I felt bad. It was just like, it's okay.
It's okay. Hey, listen, it gave me 10, 15 minutes to just talk to the guy on my own, get to know a legend. So I was not complaining.
He's a good guy. I'm here to tell you. So,
all right.
So I think we're good. I'm working on one. It's the way back clock. If we do it, we're dialing it back about 50 years.
Well, people like that kind of thing.
I know. Well, and it'd be good because very good person, not afraid to talk. So
and no matter
let's see if I can pull this off.
No matter what, we'll still have that big Effingham Mount Zion game to talk about. We'll still have
that'll be a good one. We can add on to that. And he'll probably be at that game too. So
good.
He doesn't miss many Heart games. So
well, listen, that'd be perfect. I'd love to hear someone else's take on it. Sometimes I get a little caught up in what I'm trying to do, and I can't see everything on the field because I'm trying, right. And so So yeah, that'd be great. All right, sounds good. Well, we'll look forward to whatever we've got next week. But
It'll work.
until then, we'll talk to you later, Mike.
All right. Thanks, Whitey.
See ya.